We are starting a new unit today, and this is called the Tudor era or the Tudor dynasty. In terms of English 4, we cover the development of the English language. So that's us starting with ancient Mesopotamia and Gilgamesh. Then we did Old English, which was Beowulf. Then we did Middle English, which was the Canterbury Tales. And this Tudor era that we're going to be working in, and Shakespeare, both of them, are considered early modern English. So right here on your packet, we are going to, on the front, for type of English, write early modern English. Early modern English is the type of English that we're going to be working for the next 3 to possibly 4 weeks. Over on this next slide, the where, the when, the who, that's where you're going to find your dates. Look on bullet number 2. The Tudor era was between 1485 to 1603 are the dates. And then make sure next to it, you put this was called the Tudor dynasty. 1485, bullet number 2, to 1603. And then if you don't know how to spell dynasty, it's on the next bullet down. This is the Tudor dynasty. The type of English it was early modern English. For the types of works, again, we're on this front part of the packet. We are going to be reading not stories this time. So nice for you, right? We're going to be reading poems, Poem, speeches, Speech, and love letters. Poems, speeches, and love letters. So almost everything we're reading, if you flip through this packet, is going to be like a page or less because they're short things. And then themes. For themes, let's go ahead and put war, politics, and unrequited love. UNREQUITED, love. War, politics, and unrequited love. UNREQUITED, love. LOVE. And we'll talk about what those mean later on. So flip over to the next page. We just got all our intro information. This says slide number 2. We are on slide number 2. The Tudor place took place in bullet 1, England. That is where everything we have done has taken place in England except Gilgamesh, right? That was Mesopotamia because it was the oldest story ever. It wasn't even written down in English, but everything else, Beowulf, when we read that, was taking place in what modern day England is. The Canterbury Tales, they were in England. And now for this time period, they are in England. And it was between, we already wrote these dates, let's write them again, 1485 and 1603. The first monarch of the Tudor dynasty was Henry VII. Henry VII. VII, and in parentheses, I'm going to put 7 because Roman numerals are hard, low key, right? And Henry VII is not our main guy, Henry. Our main Henry is King Henry VIII. So there was 4 additional rulers of the Tudor dynasty. Now we're down on slide number 3. The first, go ahead and write King Henry VIII. VIII. King Henry VIII. And then all 3 of these other people, put a little star next to them. These are all King Henry's kids. King Edward, Queen Mary, and Queen Elizabeth. And we gonna get into the details of all his churn this week and next week. So King Henry is the main character that we're going to be focusing on. And I say main character, but like he's a real person. So this is like a real dude. He's not a character like Beowulf is a character, a pretend one like Gilgamesh. Like King Henry is a real person. And the stuff that we're going to be reading right now from King Henry is literally like him actually writing in his bedroom to his little boo thing, right? It's a real person. So I shouldn't have said character. But King Henry is a very smart man. He's very powerful and he's very arrogant. He's very cocky. He speaks English, French, Latin. He likes hunting. He likes playing tennis. He enjoys reading and writing and poetry and the arts. He is a Catholic and loves going to church, loves celebrating the good Lord and the Virgin Mary, right? He is like a devout Catholic and takes religion very seriously. And he ends up taking the throne after his brother dies. So his brother was supposed to be first in line for the throne, but before he officially became king, the brother dies. And then when Henry's dad dies, who is Henry VII, then Henry takes the throne. So he took the throne at age 18 after his brother died. We're on that last bullet. He took the throne at age 18 after his brother died. So now we're going to meet Henry's first wife. He had 6 wives. This is just the first. We're on slide number 5 for your notes. And this is Catherine of Aragon. Catherine was actually the widow to Henry's brother. So she was married to Henry's brother. When Henry's brother died, he married his brother's wife. Okay? Which is kind of weird. He wasn't super into her, right? He was like, she's nice or whatever, but like, she used to be my sister-in-law. I'm not in love with her. She was the Princess of Spain. So they wanted them to like keep a positive relationship with Spain because remember, King Henry, he's the King of England. Then Catherine of Aragon, she's the Princess of Spain. So if they're married, it keeps a good relationship politically, make sure there's peace, they work together, blah, 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 all that stuff. So very political marriage. They needed to get pregnant, obviously, and have a son. But Catherine of Aragon was having a really hard time getting pregnant. She had a miscarriage in 1510. She had a son in 1511, and he died when he was like a newborn. In 1513, she has another son, but then he dies minutes after birth. And then in 1515, she has another son, and he is a stillborn. So he is born not alive. And then finally, last bullet, in 1516, they have a kid that survives, and her name is Mary. Mary. Mary is born and she lives, and Catherine is so happy, but King Henry could give less of a care because why? Why don't Henry care? Because Catherine is a girl. He wanted a son. Go ahead, and we're about to be moving on to the other page. So as far as the succession, this is bad news because he needs a boy to take over one day when he dies. So if we're looking at this bullets, it says Mary Tudor. That's his daughter's name. But for AKA, we are putting Bloody Mary. You know the game when you go in the bathroom, you close the door, and you say Bloody Mary? This is that Bloody Mary. Okay? Bloody Mary is his daughter, and put a star by this. A big star, because we're going to be learning all about Henry's kids and their literature and their role in England in a couple weeks. And Bloody Mary is a person we have to remember. She is Henry's first kid, and Catherine of Aragon is her mom. So Catherine of Aragon is now in her 40s at this point. Like, look how many times they were trying to get pregnant. They've been married a nice little minute, like 20 years. They've been married a long time, and she is old. Once you hit the 40s, it's hard to have a baby, right? And this is problematic for Henry. But don't you worry. Henry meets Anne Boleyn and starts having an affair with her behind Catherine of Aragon's back. So slide number 7, the affair. But then, this is all important for what we're reading. Henry VIII meets Anne Boleyn and starts having an affair behind Catherine's back. What a man. How dare he? So this brings up problems. It is now Catherine of Aragon versus Anne Boleyn. Catherine of Aragon is wife number 1. Henry does end up marrying Anne Boleyn, so she's wife number 2 eventually, but right now she's just girlfriend side chick number 2, and they do not like each other at all right now. This leads to something called the Great Divorce, okay? Henry getting a divorce from Catherine of Aragon is literally called the Great Divorce. Some people call it the King's Great Matter. We're going to call it the Great Divorce. So back in the day, this time period specifically, marriage wasn't just like cute little, like, let's get a divorce, sign these papers, I'm sick of you, right? I just said King Henry was super, 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 super religious. So he couldn't get a divorce, right? And he was like, dang, what I'm going to do, because I'm sick of Catherine. I never really liked her. Y'all bullied me into marrying her because she used to be married to my brother. What I'm going to do now, because I'm trying to be with Anne. She's young. She's fine. I really like her. So I'm going to read this breakdown of the Great Divorce, and then we're going to have to come sum it up in this little box. So here's what happened. King Henry VIII had been married to Catherine of Aragon for over 2 decades, over 20 years, but they faced a serious problem. In an age when male heirs were considered essential for a stable monarchy, they had only one surviving child, a daughter named Mary. We already know all this. With Catherine in her 40s and no prospect of having more children, Henry became desperate for a solution and fell for a younger person named Anne Boleyn, who promised she could give him the sons that he wanted. Divorce was not allowed at this time. The Catholic Church said no. Henry even asked the Pope for permission to annul or cancel his wedding or his marriage with Catherine, and the Pope refused. This led to King Henry's ego being hurt. He was shamed. He was like, wow, you're not going to give me what I want. I'm the king. I can do what I want. And this is considered one of the most dramatic, the most big power moves of history, period. King Henry decides to break away from the Catholic Church. He says, okay, Pope, you're the boss of the Catholic Church, but guess what? I'm the boss of England, and we are no longer going to be part of the Catholic Church. England is not going to be a Catholic nation anymore. And this is a big deal because Henry is very Catholic. And back in the day, even now, you'll see, right? Religion holds grounds for war and turmoil, and it's literally going to be so messy from him doing this, but he does not care because he's trying to marry his boo Anne Boleyn. So he like, it's whatever. He declares that England is no longer part of the Catholic Church, and he establishes the Church of England as their new church, and he is the supreme head of the church. So he literally cancels, we're not Catholic. England, we are now the Church of England, and I'm the boss of the Church of England. So it's like he made himself the Pope of the new religion that he made. So the Pope wasn't the boss anymore because they weren't Catholic. They were now Protestant and part of the English or the Church of England. And he's the boss of the Church of England. So he just canceled the whole religion and made a new one so he could get a divorce. So now that he is the church, the boss of the church, the head of the church, he says, okay, Henry, I can get a divorce. You can get a divorce, sir. Like, he grants his own divorce. And literally, with a swift movement, cancels his marriage to Catherine of Aragon and slides in to marry Anne Boleyn. The consequences of this sucked. They were harsh for Catherine to marry, okay? Catherine was stripped of her title as queen, and she was now known as the Princess Dowager. She was forced to leave the castle and went to spend her time in exile at some castle tucked off in a corner. She was now irrelevant. You are not the queen no more. You are exiled. You can't stay here in England, not even just kicking you out of the castle. Like, you got to get out of town, boo. Goodbye forever. Stuck her in a castle, and her daughter Mary, because remember, King Henry had a kid with Catherine of Aragon. Mary was declared illegitimate and was separated from her mom and just was kind of raised as like the ugly stepchild, we could call her. Like, you know, the Cinderella movie with the ugly stepsisters? That's like that. So she didn't get to stay with her mom. She was separated from her mom and she was considered illegitimate. Like, yeah, you ain't considered Henry's daughter like that no more because he's not married to your mom. Crazy work. Crazy work. She did get to secretly send letters to her mom, so they had like some kind of relationship, but it wasn't like that, right? The divorce was about way more than a failed marriage. It triggered something called the Protestant Reformation. That's him establishing the Church of England and changed England's relationship with everybody in Europe, everybody in the world at this time. How they engage and interact with England changes because of this religious shift. You got to summarize that in here, okay? I'm going to summarize mine. You summarize yours. If you got to rewind and watch it again, go ahead. Don't skip this box and be lazy, okay? Go back to what I said and try to summarize that into one little paragraph. When you're done, unpause and come back, and we're going to talk about Anne Boleyn, wife number 2. She, like, I swear, she's such a trick. She was literally one of Catherine of Aragon's, Henry's first wife, one of her lady in waitings, right? Like, she worked in the castle for the queen. So Henry knew her because she was in the castle working. And that's how he found her and fell in love with her. So we're on slide number 12. Anne Boleyn, one of Henry's mistresses, Mistresses. She was one of Henry's mistresses while he was married to the queen. And she was a lady in waiting. So she worked for the queen, who was Catherine of Aragon. She drew Henry in from temptation. She was really good at getting in his head, right? Good enough to convince him to switch the whole religion of England just to be able to marry her. So she really be like tricking like that, right? But she was considered smart. I said she drew Henry in from temptation because she refused to be intimate with him until they got married. So she's like, if you don't marry me, I'm not going to be intimate with you. I'll be your mistress. I'll be your little side chick, but we're not doing anything intimate until we get married. So that lured him in and made him really like eager to break his marriage with his first wife so then he can marry her. She was so delusional. She promised she would have a son with him. She said she knew that it was like her destiny, that she would give him a son, that she would have as many kids as she could, and they would have multiple sons and a big, healthy family, and that Catherine couldn't do that because she was old and crusty and dusty. So she refused to sleep with Henry until they married. To your next bullet blank. I already said that if you didn't write it. First blank, mistress. Second blank, married. She ends up having one child, Elizabeth. Never ends up having that son that she promised. Time goes by and they're not getting along. Like, stuff gets really messy. She starts supposedly cheating on Henry because he's mad at her, not sleeping with her no more, so she can't get pregnant to try to have a son. So she supposedly sleeps with people that are in the kingdom, supposedly sleeps with her brother. You see down here it says she was executed. She got her head cut off. She was beheaded for treason, adultery, and incest. Treason is plotting against the king. Adultery is cheating on the king. And incest is having intimate relations with your family. And that's what she is ultimately killed for when her and Henry have their big falling out. Up next, we have Boo Jane Seymour, wife number 3. So after Anne Boleyn was executed, got her head cut off for adultery and treason and incest, Henry marries the love of his life, Jane Seymour. If you look on bullet number 1, it says that she was Anne Boleyn's lady in waiting when Anne Boleyn was the queen. So Henry has this thing for falling in love with young, pretty girls who are working in the castle helping take care of his wife or his children. So he's literally marrying another servant, essentially. It's a lady in waiting, but she's a servant to the queen. So he found this one and the last one from working in the castle being servants. Henry, what are you doing? You can marry anybody. He keeps picking these servant girls. They were married immediately after Anne's death. There's a bullet. After Anne's death. She was only queen for 1 year, and she did give birth to a son. She successfully had his son, wife number 3, Jane Seymour, and the son's name, here is a blank, is Edward. Edward, her son. Yay. He is finally happy, has his son. He is in love with Jane. Everything is great. And then our next bullet, she died days after giving birth to Edward. So he finally has everything he wants. Maybe it's karma coming back to bite him, and she dies after having Edward, but Edward lives. And she is considered Henry's most loved and cherished wife. For these next few, I'm just speeding through them and telling you about them. The most important 3 wives for us are the first 3 because those are the baby mamas, okay? Those are the ones who actually had kids. So wife number 1, we got to remember this, was Catherine of Aragon. She had Mary as their daughter. Wife number 2 was Anne Boleyn. She had Elizabeth as her daughter. And then wife number 3, Jane Seymour, has Edward. Those are the 3 most important wives. The other ones don't have blank, so I'm just going to speed through them. Bada bing, bada boom. Wife number 4, Anna Cleves. He was married to her for a political alliance. People, his advisors, were like, you should marry her. We need a good relationship. Come on, you got to do this. They gave him a lot of pressure. He felt like he really didn't care. He had his son. He was so sad that Jane Seymour died, so he was like, whatever. Supposedly, they never consummated their marriage. They never officially had sex. So he ends up annulling the marriage on grounds of we never consummated the marriage. So we weren't really married. We were only wedded and married by paperwork. So the marriage is canceled. Got the divorce with her. And then he marries Catherine of Howard. And of course, Catherine of Howard was a lady of waiting again for his last wife. So this is the third girl that he is now married who was a servant in the castle. Like, come on, bro. Crazy enough, this girl, Catherine of Howard, was Anne Boleyn's cousin. Anne Boleyn was the one who got her head cut off for cheating and sleeping with her family, her brother, right? And this girl was like a big flirt, like just doing too much, kind of like, girl, what are you doing? She ends up getting tried for adultery, cheating also. So her and her cousin, Anne Boleyn and Catherine, both get tried for having affairs. They were both young and beautiful. So there's all these young, other strong knights and guards. And supposedly they got caught up mixing up with them. And he cuts her head off too. And then the last wife is Catherine of Parr. She is older. She's wise. She's a nice lady. She's a really nice stepmom to all of Henry's kids. She's known Henry since they were younger, but they never dated. Just seemed like a friendship that turned into being like love. And she had been married once before, but never remarried. So ends up with Henry. And it's just like a nice, supportive, healthy marriage for the first time. But at this point, Henry is old AF. Like, he's just tired of all the young girls, tired of all the servant girls. Like, he's like, I need just like a good lady, a good woman to help me raise these kids. And they're old, like 50, 60 type stuff right now. And they're just locked in, and she outlives Henry. So Henry dies, and she is left to herself. So the order, we are now on the last page. Order. Slide 17. Catherine of Aragon, Jane Boleyn, Jane Seymour, Anna Cleese, Catherine of Howard, Catherine of Parr. And the song for this goes, divorced, beheaded, died. Divorced, beheaded, survived. Divorced, beheaded, died. Divorced, beheaded, survived. Let's fill our blanks in. I'm going to say it like that again. Divorced, beheaded, died. Divorced, beheaded, survived. That is our order. Up next, we are going to be reading love letters from King Henry that he wrote to Anne Boleyn in real life while he was still married to Catherine of Aragon, his first wife, begging Anne to be his side chick and love him and be his boo and his mistress. Okay? We're going to read letters that Anne Boleyn writes in the Tower of London before she dies, before she gets her head cut off for cheating on King Henry. She writes letters and poetry. We're going to read those. These are all like real things found and saved and documented. And then we're going to be reading Sir Thomas Wyatt. He is a poet who worked in the castle with Henry as an advisor, so he know Henry good, and he was in love with Anne Boleyn, who Henry killed for adultery and cheating and all that. We're going to read a poem that he wrote about Anne Boleyn. So this is a love triangle. This is a love triangle. It is messy and like, oh my God, I just love this section. If you hate it, then we're not cool anymore. It's basically all I have to say. Okay, bye.